Okay, so welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. And today I am in conversation with Anna Allan, who is a virtual assistant. And I'm really, really excited to have this conversation. But before I hand over to Anna to introduce herself, I'm just going to introduce myself. So I'm Gajinder Bogle. I am the reluctant leader. So, my business journey was never a vision for me. It was never something I thought I would ever be doing. But here I am, 7 years into my business journey as the reluctant leader. And I am super excited to introduce you guys to Anna. So, Anna, over to you. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody watching and listening today?
Well, thank you very much, Gajinder. Really pleased to be here. Yes, I'm Anna. I'm owner of AKA Virtual Assistant. Started my business in 2020 and a mum and wife. I try and support people as best I can, making their lives as easy as possible.
Oh, I love that. And do you know what? I've got two virtual assistants because one is never enough. And I can honestly say I could not run my business without their support. So I 100% really value what you bring to people, not just entrepreneurs, but just generally to people's lives with the services that you offer. And Anna, I want to know, have you always wanted to do this? Was it part of your dream to own your own business and become a virtual assistant? And what actually made you take that leap?
Well, it wasn't something that I was born with. Certainly, I know that I was always ambitious when I was younger, but I never expected that I would necessarily be my own business owner. So I think it probably starts off when I was really little. Having been ambitious, I just knew that I wanted to excel in whatever I did and be at the top. So probably it was in my 30s that I decided, actually, this could be something that I could put into my life plan.
Amazing. So you actually did plan to allow something like this to come to life?
Yes, I did. I think as a mum, I was really conscious that I was missing out quite a lot of being around her, being there for her. And throughout my whole corporate career, I did, for the last 10 and a half years before I started my business, I was working 24 hours, 7 days a week. I was pretty much always on call. I found that I was missing the important things. I missed her first steps. I, missed supper times and conversations. And it was a case of me rushing back and forth. And eventually I found that not only was it doing myself out of of an emotional and personal kind of advantage with my daughter, but physically, I was burning out and my chronic health conditions came to the surface.
Wow. And so it was almost like that sign saying something has to give, something has to happen, something has to change.
Absolutely. I think, working those hours in a busy city like London is, it's for young people, it's for younger people, and it's for people who are really mobile. So with the fact that I was running around and literally running from my desk to get to the tube, running up the escalator, I mean, it was all down to a T. And I figured that this wasn't what life should really be. And I didn't have a child to make a load of money for other people and not enjoy life. So took the conscious decision that by the time she was at secondary school, that I would certainly be at home, working for myself, not making as much money, but certainly the richness of being around her more would outweigh the cons, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I really feel that. And do you know what? I really see this mirrored in my own journey with my children as well. So I had very similar. I was working in town, the real corporate rat race. And I want to touch on this thing because I kind of have an idea, because you mentioned secondary school, but it took me 4 years of my son being born for me to make a move and a shift. And it took for a second child to be born for me to really realize it was a problem.
Mhm.
How long did it take you from the moment you realized something had to shift to actually making the shift?
Well, I say I was in my 30s of thinking about it, but actually it was only a couple of years. It was literally 2 or 3 years that I thought, right, you know,
Wow.
the pain that I was having physically was meaning that I couldn't actually spend the time that I did have at weekends doing the things that I should be doing. And setting up a virtual assistant business is pretty straightforward. It's very easy, and I did it in a matter of months. So it was just making sure that, me being me, I wanted everything done yesterday and perfectly. And I have soon realized that that's never the case, especially as a business owner.
Yeah, 100%. Like, but it's a different kind of feeling, isn't it? When you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't feel as bad in comparison to when you're doing it for somebody else. And you've mentioned health conditions a couple of times now. And how has your health been since you made that move? So, obviously the demands are probably quite similar, but just less pay probably. Have you noticed that now that you're living more in alignment with the life that you want to live, has that translated into your health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think physically, going back, yes, I've been. So I was diagnosed in my 20s, which is really late on, that I had Ehlers-Danlos hypermobility syndrome, and that was the reason why I kept getting injuries playing sport when I was younger, and I was in that much pain. And since I've actually started my business, it's only about a year and a bit ago that I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia as well. So with those two things going on, I know for certain that if I had been as active and doing that commute every day as quickly as I had to, physically, I don't know where I'd be, really, if I'm honest. I found myself actually having to get home and lie on the floor and just not be able to move. It was really quite sore. And on the flip side, my mental health has just skyrocketed and just got so much better, because I'm not being 100%. I'm not struggling to be 100% to all people. And yet I am probably busier now. But as you say, it is for myself and for my clients who I get to choose. I love working with. And I know that I'm really making a difference.
And I guess there's flexibility, because let's talk about flexibility as well, because as a virtual assistant, you get to set your own hours.
I do. Yes, absolutely. And everyone says that, and it is absolutely true. But I think as a business owner, and certainly someone who is an assistant by trade, they're more likely to be really disciplined.
Yeah, more structure.
Really structured and almost be more hard on themselves than anybody else could be. So you will find me, if I can be, at my desk at about 7 o'clock in the morning. And but the flexibility, as you say, it is really important. So my daughter is also a competitive swimmer, and which is the other reason that I can actually take off at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I can work in the car while she's training, come back here and work till whatever time I want. So in the corporate world, yes, no, that wouldn't happen so much.
That wouldn't work, right? And how has that actually changed the game between the dynamic between you and your daughter, and even with you and your family, and the way you actually get to live your life now? How have you seen the transition into business ownership change that dynamic for you?
I think it's a happier household. I think, my daughter is really open with me, which I love. And, even when my husband isn't around because he works in London, or traveling, we've got such a close bond that it can be quite spicy at times. We argue, we bicker, But that's all important, because as a mother, daughter, or any child relationship, I feel it's really important, because I didn't have my parents there living with me from the age of 10 to 18. So that relationship between my daughter and I is why I became a mum.
And, you know, same with me. And I realized when my kids were spending longer in childcare than they were with me, I was like, something isn't right here. This isn't the right equation going on in terms of how much time they're spending with me in comparison to childcare. So, Anna, why virtual assistant work, and why not anything else? What was it about becoming a virtual assistant that you chose that route?
I think because of my experience. You know, I had, you know, I've been an executive assistant in senior roles for over, 20 years. So it was a no-brainer, really, in that I knew what I was doing. And without trying to sound arrogant, I knew so many different ways of doing so many different things, that I knew that apart from the business ownership part, I could do my job very, very easily, and I could service a number of individuals and a variety of characters, which I have certainly come across, you know, without too much problem. So really, as a business, someone who wants to go into business ownership, certainly the first business that they own, I would really strongly recommend doing what you know, because then the other challenges won't be so bad.
Absolutely. And that's such a good thing. And do you know what? You just reminded me as well that when I first started out in business, I was actually doing something slightly different to what I'm doing now. And it was actually lockdown that made me pivot a little bit and do what I'm doing now. So yeah, sometimes whatever it is we think we're going to do in business might not be the thing we end up actually doing, but it's great to start with what we know.
They do say that. They say that your first business is never going to be your last business. You know, you will always have a second business that, you know, you might tweak your first business from, or find something better. I mean, funnily enough, it was sort of a sense check. I decided to do a business course just before I started, aka virtual assistant, and we had to do a business plan for 2 businesses. And I actually prefer my first idea far better than aka virtual assistant. So, you know, you never know that in you know 5-10 years that might come about.
That might still happen. Dare we ask? Can we ask what that business idea is? Or
Well,
is
children
that
would love it.
Sorry?
Children would love it. Parents might not. Yes,
Does it make lots of noise?
It involves lots of sweets, and you know, a moving vehicle to be able to buy them from. You know.
It's a bit like an ice cream van, but the sweet version of it.
Exactly. And then
my God, my daughter would actually be your favorite customer.
Well, you could, you know, like ice cream trucks, you know, come outside schools. I would sit outside a school. I could go to festivals or weddings, birthdays, what have you. But again, my daughter came into it because obviously I wanted to be around for her. And this is obviously centered around children, probably. So decided that I'd park that one for now.
Oh, wow. But yeah, watch this space, right? You never know.
Never know.
You never know. So what has been the most challenging thing that you've experienced on your kind of business, on your leadership journey, that you didn't expect to find so challenging?
That's a really good question, because I felt, certainly when I was younger, I think from my background, I've always had to lead myself. Because I went to a boarding school and my parents were overseas because of their job, I always had to be independent and lead myself through real challenges. So really, when a challenge comes about, I don't see it as a brick wall. I see how we're going to get over it or around it. And I think that, yes, there are challenges, but it can only make you stronger. I think if I really, quite easily, the most challenging thing, and I certainly don't want to bring the tone down on this lovely conversation, but just as I was launching, which was 2020, and coincidentally lockdown, We also had first world problems of having building works, which if there could be, we would be on that building works are hell type program, because it just went horribly wrong. And instead of a 6-month program, it led to an 18-month plus program with builders walking off because they were, they went bust. The whole scenario, if you could write it, you couldn't, you wouldn't be able to write it. But also my dad was in end of life care. And I found, there's always a silver lining, because in lockdown, I was able to visit him.
Yes.
Had lockdown not happened, I wouldn't have been able to. My husband would have been working, my daughter would have been at school, but I did manage to spend quite a few weekends or midweek because of the flexibility. Took my laptop with me, worked during the day, spent time with him. But that was certainly the most challenging, most definitely, especially as I was just starting out. Because I think as a business owner starting out, you want to prove a point. And for me, it wasn't proving a point to anybody other than myself.
Do you know what? I really get that, because it's quite similar to my own journey as well. And one of the things I always thank is my business for allowing me to navigate life better. Because can you imagine going through all of that stuff and a job that you had to leave the house, and it was full time, all of this stuff, you just wouldn't be able to navigate it. So sometimes, there is, even though we find it challenging in our businesses, but to enjoy that spaciousness that our business allows us to have, to just be able to navigate things like building work, things like family stuff. It's just incredible, isn't it, that it comes at that right time?
It comes at the right time. I completely agree with you. When one door closes, another will open. But I also think that business ownership is something that actually should be taught in schools. I think that actually the skills that you learn without knowing anything, cash flows, marketing strategies, advertising, all of these things, I think, especially young people in coming up, are certainly going to need that, regardless of whether they're going into business. I think that all of the skills that you do in your own business are hugely transferable.
100%. And I don't know about you, but I feel our public schools are all about setting you up for the workforce and setting you up to join the rat race and the corporate world. And I don't know if it was the same for you when you were going through boarding school, but I feel it's so important that these other skills and this other way of life and this other world is shown to our children, because actually the corporate world isn't the be all and end all.
No, I think that expectations are high in one sense in today's world. But as you say, certainly when I was growing up, it was, a professional career that you were looking for. I think I would never have had the creativity or the knowledge, or even, dare I say it, the balls to actually go out and do something which would be so risky, according to some people. Whereas today, young people are, I believe, encouraged more to do what they want to do. And thank goodness for that, because today's generation do what they want to do. Let's face it. But they have to, it's not a criticism. They have to be able to survive. If they were being told what to do and be put in that box, they wouldn't get anywhere in this ever competing crazy world.
100%. And, it is such important skills to have. And I know, you've got a daughter, I've got a daughter as well. And I can just imagine yours is probably just as headstrong as mine is. And even if we tried to tell them what to do, we probably wouldn't succeed.
I keep on telling myself, actually, this is good. It's good that she's headstrong, because she'll get it, she'll be okay in life. But there are just times, just once.
My husband says it to me all the time. He's like, she needs to be tamed. She needs to be controlled. And I was like, no, she is exactly the version she needs to be to face the world that she needs to face. And I was like, so no, it's just, we need to find the right strategies and coping mechanisms to be able to get her to do whatever it is it's actually about not even getting them to do whatever it is. It's just creating that safe space for them.
Yeah. And she is, mine's headstrong as well. But, she's been part of my business. She helped me create my logo. I remember
how amazing.
I remember us sitting down in lockdown, and I said, right, well, I know that I want probably my initials, so where do we go?
Yeah.
And we would, all three of us, my husband, daughter, and I, were doodling. And what do you think of this, Mum? And I like these colours, Mum. And I said, oh, that's it then. Sorted.
Yep. I love that. I absolutely love it. And how is it for her to see you like this now?
I think that I know, because she tells me that she is proud, and that means something to me, because I think any parent really wants their children to grow up believing, and I hope she sees that if I can, she can, and anyone can. And she always says, oh, my mum's a business owner and she owns her own business, and she makes it sound so glamorous. It's quite
only she knew. Only she knew.
Yeah, exactly. But no, she's seen it. She's lived it. There are occasions where I have to say, right, I am on a client call. This is a call which no background noise can be happening. So she gets it. She does, and she's got her own ideas of what she'll be doing. And as long as she's happy, then I'm happy.
Yes, I love that. I love it. And, it's just that door of possibilities, isn't it? It's just opening their eyes to this door of possibilities that actually, if I can do this, you can also do this or anything else that you want to do.
Yeah. And the door, opportunities, as I say, the door always, it's only since business ownership that when one door closes, another one just weirdly seems to open. And I call it manifestation or pure worry. I don't know. But, I know that it's, for me, it's really important to reinforce that if, for example, she fluffs her exams, at the end of school, if she doesn't get the results that she wants, it's really not, I think there's so much pressure on people, and I see, certainly from a mental health perspective, how damaging it can be. And, as you said, corporate is not for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, a vet. As long as we've said, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, then it won't seem so bad. And that's exactly how I feel with my own business.
Oh, I love that. I really love it. And I think it's just such a good, it's a good structure for the kids to have, good parameters to them to have, but then also for them to make their own journey out of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask, so what has been the most surprising thing for you stepping into kind of a virtual assistant business? What's been the thing that maybe people misunderstand, misconceptions, or just the weirdest things that you have to work on?
So when I came from corporate, I thought I'd be working with corporate people. I thought I'd be working with men, and the majority are non-corporate and female. Yeah. So that was a huge surprise, and something that I'm not used to, because I have always enjoyed or preferred working in male-dominated environments. I did, hospitality, which was male-dominated. I was a chef, and that was definitely male-dominated. And then private equity in my corporate world, and property was mainly men. And I really got along with them. There was no, I call it shenanigans. There was no sort of backstabbing, no, what you saw is what you got. And I'm very much like that. Having said that, I feel that since I've had my business, most people have been women, and I've thrived. I have felt more supported, whether or not that's because everyone's in the same boat, than I ever have in my working career.
I love that. And what a big realization, right? What a big realization and a turning point, considering the kind of professions that you have had leading up to this point?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not that I've tried to get away from men. Everything about my business sort of tends to lead towards the female-owned businesses, and to be able to support them, I think that they have, a similarity in the sense that they might be the same age as me. They might have a family, and they know what we're all going through. I think. I don't want to be sexist, but I find that there's more on sort of the logistical plates of women than men. And so I know how to tap in and get the best sort of for them to be able to make their lives easier.
Yeah. And do you know, I've always said, and I'm not saying this is going to be the same for you, but I've always said, like, my virtual assistants are almost like my wives, like my work wives that do, all the things that I don't want to do. They kind of take all of that off my plate. Would that be the same with you and your clients?
Yes, yeah, it would. I can speak actually from my corporate background that, the people that I worked for, their wives would call me to find out where they were, or when they were free next to do a family outing, or, and they would ask me how much money was in each bank account. So I think it's a really privileged position to be in. And that's why I don't take it for granted that the trust has got to be there, and the mutual respect, because they're trusting me with their business, with their lives, with personal information. And I certainly know from my own experience that that would be really difficult to give away. So I don't take that for granted. And I feel that if I can, show them that I can be an ambassador for them, for their business, and help them as much as I can, then they're more likely to use me. They're more likely to, let that burden go from them.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love it. And, and I think it's support like yours that helps businesses flourish. And I'm sure you get this, that people are hesitant to invest in support. Maybe we're conditioned, especially as women, we're conditioned to do everything ourselves.
Yes.
And that actually maybe outsourcing or getting support is a sign of failure. What would you kind of say to that if there is anyone there thinking, I would love this kind of support, but...
I think you're spot on that there's that people want to do it themselves because they are conditioned to it. But there's also, I find a lot of people thinking, oh, well, how hard can it be? It's really easy to set up some meetings. And of course it is. It's not rocket science. Anyone can do anything if they put their minds to it. I truly believe that. There's enough research, there's enough, resources out there that we can learn pretty much anything. However, what I would say to the business owners that are growing, if they should be looking at their core activities, their business generating activities. So instead of doing calendar or diary management for, an hour each day, then your assistant should be able to take that from you far more easily, and not have that stress of going back and forth to find a mutually convenient date and time. I think that my rule is, if your hourly rate is more than a virtual assistant's rate, then you can then outsource to them so that you can make that business generating income. That's why you're here.
And it makes CEO sense, right? If you actually position yourself as the CEO of your life and business, it makes CEO sense to pay someone less than what you would charge for your own hourly worth to do the task in hand.
Yes. I wouldn't go into, your office and say, Kajinder, let me do what you're doing. You've got X number of years of experience so that you can do those things far quicker than me. I've got 20 plus years of experience of doing what I can do, and have worked with so many different characters that I can, I can gauge quite quickly how people work and how they like to work, so that I can tailor make, and provide them a bespoke service as to what makes them feel comfortable. And I have a variety of clients, that there are some that won't let me do a huge amount, and then there are some that just say, oh, just do it, so I work with all sorts of people.
Oh, and then talking about the kind of people you work with, what are the kind of transformations or the kind of client journeys that you've loved to witness the most?
Well, most of them are growing, and I can talk about one who I was doing pro bono work before they even launched, and it was a charity. It is a charity, and now they're very well known, and working overseas, and to see the difference and the rewards that are being reaped, not by the patrons, is just so rewarding. I love it.
I love it. I love it. And to see that you were there from the start and you just helped to build what is out there right now, that is amazing. I actually got goosebumps just actually listening to it.
Yeah, I love being part of it. I love giving back. I'm passionate about the cause, so I think that also makes a huge difference. And again, going back to business ownership and flexibility, not that I try and push people away, but I'm too ugly and old now to work with just anybody. If I feel that there is going to be an unhappy ride in it, I'll politely decline the work.
Yes. And I think that's come through very strongly, that you do have this no nonsense approach. You do have this high standard that you set for yourself and your clients. And really, I want to get into what are some of those non-negotiables that you have when it comes to either navigating your own life or working with your clients.
What I would say is that the onus is on me, or any virtual assistant, or any business owner, because no one can control what other people do, but they can control what they do. And up until this point, I have been terrible at saying no or not now. And it is only now that I will not look at a message that comes in at 9 o'clock at night. That's my time. I might be coming back from a swimming pool at that time because of the training, and I want to relax until before the next day. So I won't pick up the phone and quickly do this, or it would be quicker if I just did it now. I'm very disciplined, so they're my non-negotiables. I've had so much of the appeasing and people pleasing other people, and now is selfishly but happily my time, and my time to enjoy what I'm doing.
100%. And if you enjoy what you're doing, that's going to ripple out into your business and into your clients' businesses as well.
Yeah. And let's face it, you do something at 10 o'clock at night, the likelihood of someone reading it until the next morning is quite high anyway. So, I think that it's law of attraction. If you're happy, they're happy. It's like anything in life. If you're showing that you're not overly keen on something, it will come through. It'll come through your work, and your character, your energy.
And I guess that goes with, if you're doing something that you should really outsource, it's that same principle, isn't it? If you're doing a task that you're not very good at, and you're saving it until the very end of the day because, it's that task you're dreading and don't want to do, that's going to come through in whatever you put out. So if there is someone that feels like that they know they need the support because they've got this long list of tasks they're saving till the end of the day, they're doing them at 10 o'clock at night when they really should be resting and sleeping, but they really feel nervous about letting go, or they feel nervous about delegating or outsourcing, what is that kind of advice or that message you would give to that person?
Again, I'm really aware. I'm really aware that this is probably the case why people don't outsource to virtual assistants, because they know so much, and my advice to anyone is my business model might be different from others. I set aka Virtual Assistant up on my values and how I wanted it to run, which is, natural, I guess. The ad hoc service is perfect because you can give as little or as much as you like. You're not, we have an agreement in place. So if you want to go on to retainer, you can, but I could do 3 hours of work and you could say, it's not for me. You could do 1 hour. I could do 1 hour of work. And you could say, yes, I'd like you to do more. I definitely give little chunks to people. So mailbox management, making your mailbox tidy, it's a perfect opportunity for me to get into working with a client. If they give me access to their mailbox, I organize it. I create subfolders so that it's a library to, use as a resource going forward. I get to know what's happening in their business so that when they do ask me to be on a retainer, I'm running with it already.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect introduction. So that is one of the services that I offer.
Oh my God, I wish I had asked you this question first, because my mailbox is the last thing I'm outsourcing to my assistants.
Okay.
And do you know what state I'm handing it over in? 55,500 emails.
Yeah.
And she is ready to shoot me.
Okay.
Lucky she's been working with me for years, but 100%, it was the last thing I'm handing over. And I wish it was the first.
I think, again, people's preferences, there are some people who will say, no, if I can't find something, I think that you need to trust your assistant. You need to be able to get along. And that first meeting that you have is, I don't call it a discovery meeting. I don't limit it to 20 minutes. We have a full hour. We get to know one another. I want to know what they're up to. I want to know what they really need so that then I can make a proper proposal, a fully informed, proposal that will meet their needs. And I think that once they get to work with a virtual assistant like you have with yours, that's when and if it's that way round, then it's that way round. You've still got them, they're still helping you. There's no right or wrong. And I think that that's the other thing, is that there'll be one problem with several solutions to the same problem.
Yeah, and there's no going back. Once you venture into the realm of outsourcing, there is no going back. I've got my assistants organizing my kids' birthday parties, getting all these things. Like I look like the most organized person, but I really am not. It's actually my team in the background that now do all my personal stuff as well as the business stuff as well. So yeah, the biggest problem anyone will have with outsourcing is they'll never going back. They'll never go back to doing it all themselves. So Anna, we are coming up to the end of our conversation. I've got a last couple of questions for you. One of them is, are there any exciting directions that you're now exploring that you can kind of share with us?
Well, an exciting thing probably for me is that I'm looking at, in the next 5 years, of growing AKA Virtual Assistant. So, I have so many requests, which is lovely, but there are so many hours in the day, which is where I think my business model, my first business, should I say, I can't grow it without support. So I am myself thinking of outsourcing so that we don't have an agency as such, but we have every type of virtual assistant being able to support under the AK Virtual Assistant umbrella, which will be lovely because, I do get a lot of people to come and ask me whether I can help them.
That sounds very, very exciting. So I guess if there's anyone listening that might be an assistant already or might be able to offer some services, to get in touch with you there as well. And
Absolutely.
if you could, as a closing, as one golden nugget for our audience, whether it's a mindset shift, a mantra, or even a lesson, what could you leave everybody with before we finish?
I think that people should really enjoy what they do and change that if they don't, because life is too short and your business should be enjoyable. So if you're in a position of not having enough hours in the day, or finding certain tasks or projects just overwhelming or even boring, don't delay. Ignite your business again, and seek support, because even if you haven't found the assistant that you want first off, you will. There are plenty of us out there.
And you're so right, because my assistants weren't my first assistants. And yes, it's almost like kissing the frogs, right? And you go through, whatever you go through, but start somewhere. And just to go on what you mentioned as well, as a business owner as well, we have a vision for what we want our business to look like. And when we start our business, that vision seems really, really far away, because we're like, oh my God, we're doing everything. But what gets us closer to that vision is the outsourcing, is the delegation. So, if you dream of working on a beach in Bali, 100% it can happen, but creating that right support and that right structure can get you closer to that vision than you trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah, I think also that, the AK virtual assistant, the virtual assistant world is vast. You do have your virtual assistants who have their niches, their particular, likes and dislikes. And then you do have the people who, I've had senior leadership experience, I've had strategy experience, and having, two heads and two pairs of eyes to, throw some suggestions and some ideas out there, it can be really enriching. And I love that type of work.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm so excited for anyone that listens to this conversation and then takes action on it, because you just never know what it's going to unfold, what it's going to reveal for you as well. So Anna, thank you so much. And it's been an amazing conversation. And I should have actually probably mentioned this at the beginning. Anna and I met through networking, and we've been trying not to have this conversation so that we could save it for this conversation. So one thing I'm personally excited about is actually just being able to freely talk to you now, which is really, really exciting. But Anna, if anybody did want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Whatever's easiest for them. The details are up on the screen. I'm also on LinkedIn, Anna Allan. Yes, drop me an email, drop me an online form, or by LinkedIn, and I'd love to just have a chat, advice, over a cuppa.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has watched or listened into this conversation. And we will be back again very soon with another exciting episode and an equally exciting guest. So thank you very much, Anna, for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I've loved it.
Bye.